And good afternoon, everybody. This is Vinny Maletti with Maletti Law, the strongest name in law. All right. So I'm going to have this new thing. I used to do this originally when I had more time, but now I'm going to do this out of necessity because otherwise it just takes too long. So every time I get a question, and if it's one of these freebie questions, you're all getting your responses in a video, and it's going to be anonymized. So no one knows who sent it to me, but this is going to be responding to specific and particular questions. And that's it, because I got to get some benefit to this whatsoever. So, all right. So with that said, the purpose of this video is to address a question about the bankruptcy process. So I am not a bankruptcy attorney. So I will tell everybody ahead of time, if there are more specific questions that you're looking for, I would always recommend speaking to a bankruptcy attorney who does that for a living. Bankruptcy law is this unique area of law. They have different case law. They have rules and regulations. They have the bankruptcy code. It is a code that I as an attorney who does employment law and trademarks and copyrights and whatnot, intellectual property, I will never use the bankruptcy code ever. And I do have experience in it, but it's not like I by no stretch of the imagination am I a professional at it, or bankruptcy is my bread and butter. So with that in mind, I will tell you a couple of things that I've noticed with bankruptcy. Number one, it really should be your last resort. So you have, Chapter 7, Chapter 11, you have reorganization, you have just a full bankruptcy that you're just trying to offload and discharge your debt and whatnot. But you really need to treat it as a last resort. And one of the biggest reasons I'm finding is that a lot of times what will happen is, let's say, the court appoints, the court appoints a trustee. The trustee's job, the trustee's goal is to maximize the value of the estate. So the trustee will look into certain transactions, will look into certain deals, will look into, transactions that have occurred. Let's say, I don't know, I can't remember what the number was. Somebody told me one time 6 months, but I'm sure it's longer than that. I'm sure it's 2 or 3 years. I'm sure it's got to be at least equivalent to a statute of limitations. So I'm just assuming it's got to be a 6-year look back. I'm assuming because of certain statutes of limitations and case law. So the first thing I want to caution everybody is there is a concern that before you go to, any transactions you entered into, which may be deemed fraudulent or may be deemed improper, prior to filing for the bankruptcy, might be unwound at some point. So let's say you gave your ex-wife, or you gave your wife or your business partner a bunch of money, you transferred accounts to them, 2 months before you file for bankruptcy to say, oh, look, I have nothing. They may unwind that, and the court-appointed trustee might really push into it and, dig. Because my understanding is in some instances they get a portion of, or they get it's kind of they get not a commission, but they get a success fee, I want to say. I'm trying to think of the term, but where if they get paid based on how much they could actually pull in. So there's that aspect of it, right? They may unwind a lot of things. They may look into things that you don't think are proper. The second course of action, second concern I would have is you lose a lot of control. You give it to the courts, you give it to a trustee who, does everything in the name of the estate, in the name of the trust, in the name of the company. It's this real fictitious thing. It's this this fictitious corporate makeup, this fictitious estate makeup, and it works and it functions in the best interest of the estate, or the company that's in bankruptcy, whatever the case is, and you lose a lot of control. You can't really plan ahead because you're really at the beck and call and the whim of the trustee or the designated counsel. So that's another thing. You lose control, right? That was part two. Remember, number one was that you have that look back period where it might get unwound. A lot of things may get unwound. You might find yourself in more trouble than you were intending otherwise. And then also the final point I would probably talk about too is like the long term effect of it. It's not a great idea. You are your credit is going to take a hit. You're going to struggle fundraising in the future. Unless you work on somebody else. If you have a family member, if you have a family member or something that you plan on running the business through afterwards, maybe it might not be so bad, but it's a challenge, and you ruin you could hurt your credit. You could hurt your ability to fundraise down the road. It's always going to be that's a mark on. It's something that it's always like seen, right? So as let's say you're looking to grow your company, you're looking to take on investor capital. If they find you associated with a bankruptcy, they're going to immediately, they're going to lose trust in you. And in reality, a lot of times, particularly in this market is predicated on trust. So, you have to have trust in who you're investing in. You have to have trust in that your money's going to actually be returned, and, it's going to be, you're going to get it back again, that you're not just coughing it up and getting rid of it indefinitely. So I think those are the three biggest items that I think you should consider, and the implications. I think one, like I mentioned, it was the look back period that may wind up actually harming you, and you're not expecting it. The second point is losing control, where you're not in control of anything going, you're not in control of what's happening. And the third aspect, like I said, is the implications going forward. The impact it has on your ability to fundraise, on your credit, on just everything you need in life, because you need leverage to grow, and it's going to be very difficult to find leverage when you're after bankruptcy. So that's my take on bankruptcy. And certainly if you have any questions or concerns, you can shoot me an email or a text, and I will respond like this, because no more freebies without me getting some benefit, because y'all ain't paying an hourly rate. So I at least want my SEO. So, all right, everybody, I hope this is helpful. If you have more questions, follow up on an email. I'll answer them as time permits. Have a good day.